think now's a good time to even speak about the Mohammed VI Academy a bit. It was founded in 2009 by King Mohammed VI with the mission of developing young Moroccan football talent and providing a pathway for these local players into professional football, become a real cornerstone of Morocco's ambitions to become a key player in African and global football. And it's already really had some fruit come from its labor. You have the likes of Azzedine Ounahi, Youssef En-Nesyri, and Naif Aguerd, who have all gone on to have really good careers in Europe and beyond. Talk to me a little bit about how this academy is really forming a institution for Morocco to build the success at youth level.
I think that the IMF has certainly played a big role in Moroccan football in recent years. But I have actually my own criticism, to be honest, because I feel that they are yet to meet the expectations and the big investment. If, for example, I ask you now, how many players from the IMF have managed to have a decent career in Europe, for example, over 14 years of producing talent? The answer, I think, would likely be only three. So 14 years old for three players that are like 7 out of 10, there is a bit of disappointment in this. IMF is yet to produce, for example, an 8 or a 9 out of a 10 player who, for example, can be a starter for a top European team. Or if you look at Egypt, despite having like far less financial support, I think that they have managed to produce top players in Moussa Salah and some really of Africa's greatest players. I think like academies in Generation Foot in Senegal, for example, have done better. Also, other African academies with few resources have still managed to achieve better results and produce better talents. I think it's time for the IMF and its player to step up because the results, considering the level of investment and the hype, is not there yet. Also, I believe that the IMF has negatively impacted club and academies in Morocco because when you are a top talent, for example, in a Moroccan club, you know that the IMF will mostly come for you, and it's almost impossible for clubs to keep their talents because you, as a young player, you know that the IMF will offer you better facilities, more money, more chances of being scouted and join the national team, etc. So it's not a good deal for the club. And ironically, actually, the best Moroccan local product in the best 14 years is not made in IMF, but actually it's Yassine Bounou who was like 100% outdated product. That's my honest opinion about the institution. I think that they have done good, but they should do better. That's my honest opinion, yeah.
A great insight, by the way, because when I talk to my Moroccan friends, I always praise Mohammed VI Academy, and they say, "Yeah, wow, it's such a great project." Right now, I will try to limit my praise a bit. My praise comes from this under 17 AFCON when I think Mohammed Academy 6 had like 8 players in the squad. So I thought that it's a top academy producing so many talents, but it turns out that they have the monopoly in Morocco for the talent. So they take all the best talents from the country. So yeah, it was a great insight. What?
Yep, absolutely. It's always really, really cool to get the insight of someone who's directly in the country rather than just us looking in from the outside where we maybe have a different perspective. But Yasik, just sticking with this topic for a moment, what is your opinion more generally on these big centralized academies? I mean, we looked especially in a lot of the developing footballing countries, like in the Middle East, for example, and like in Africa as well. And these academies are really growing in prominence. I looked at the Aspire Academy with exceptional facilities, high level coaching from Europe, but they've struggled to produce talent that's necessarily in tune with the investment that they've made. So do you think these academies can really bear fruit, or do you think it's better to have a more organic talent development where players are naturally just coming through at the local club sides and then moving into first team setups like we see in European football?
Well, it depends on the country. I always say that the number of top academies always affects the general level of football. Let's look at France. You mentioned Clairefontaine, but in France we have like 15 to 20 top academies. Even let's say Valenciennes, they have a top academy. So yes, but on the other hand, let's say that Generation Foot in Senegal, it's a blessing for Senegal. ASEC Mimosas in Ivory Coast is a blessing for Ivory Coast. So it really depends on the country and on the financial and human potential. So I'm a big fan of Generation Foot and ASEC Mimosas, but I would like to see more than one top academy in these countries because, as I always say, the future of football is in Africa. There are so many talents in Africa, and there is still this passion we are slowly losing in Europe.
Yep, very, very interesting. I think we've always had a similar perspective on these topics, but it's good to hear it here as well on the podcast for the listeners. While returning to you, though, when we speak about the Mohammed VI Academy, do you think that it's just a fact of it needing reform, better coaching, better talent, better facilities, or just a different vision in general? Or do we really need a revolution in Moroccan football where we potentially give kind of the onus for talent development back to the clubs for them to produce players for their first teams or eventually moves to Europe right away then when they turn 18?
To be honest, I don't think that they need better coaches because they actually already like get best coaches from Netherlands, from Belgium, from Spain. So it's not a problem of coaches. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of these big centralized academies, but I would say that the IMF has definitely played a role. That's like 100%. All I'm saying is that they need to step up and they need to provide better.
And what would you tell us about the facilities of, for example, Mohammed VI Academy? How would you compare the facilities, the general level of the academy to Wydad and Raja Casablanca? Like, what would be your top three youth facilities in Morocco right now?
It's a surprise, okay? Best three youth facilities in Morocco are not Wydad and not Raja. I would say the best are, of course, the academy, the Mohammed VI Academy. Second, I would say are Asefa. They have a really good academy as well. And third, I would say Fatah. They are really good as well in youth football. Lots of Morocco under 16, under 14s. When you look at those very youth national teams, lots of them are from Fus, from Far, and from Mohammed VI Academy. Those three clubs absolutely have the best youth facilities in the country.
And is there a big difference between AMF and these two others? For example, I can imagine that Generation Foot in Senegal, they have by far the best facilities in the country, like really a few levels above the others. So the IMF is really that's above them, or they're quite similar, but IMF still has slightly better.
They are literally much better, really much better, because they provide like best coaches in youth football in Europe. They provide you a world-class facilities. So basically, you just go in there, you are going to, I would say, a European academy in the country. But that's the problem because when you have these facilities, when you have those coaches, when you make this investment, when you are spending all this money, the outcome should be much more than just three players in 14 years old. That's my point of view.
When you put it so blankly, which I think you have to, it shines kind of a darker light on what we from the outside looked as this net positive for Moroccan football.